ChatGPT work. Full course, 1 hour, how to build and automate anything. So today we're going to be running through exactly how to use a new app, which is ChatGPT work. We can download it like so if you want to get started. So you can get it from openai.com/ChatGPT hyphen work. And we're going to be walking through exactly how to use this new tool step by step, some of the best use cases for it. It's a really powerful system now that GPT 5.6 with Soul is built in. So you can do all sorts of amazing things with this app. Very impressive. One of my favorite apps right now for AI. And I'm going to talk you through exactly how to use it, how to get started with it. We actually created this because we had a question from Jason 4 hours ago. He was saying, hey, I'm using the new ChatGPT app. I like Soul. I don't know how to use it like the old Codex app. And to be 100% clear here, ChatGPT Work is the new version of the Codex app. So previously this was called Codex. Now it is called ChatGPT Work. And we can get access to it over here, as you can see. And this is what it's going to look like for you. So once you've got started with it, once you've downloaded it, you just need to make sure you signed in. And once you signed in, then we can start using this. So the first thing that you're going to see is you're going to see the new task at the top, right? So you can see over here, you've got new task. And over here, you have chat. So there's two different versions inside one app. You've got the chat, which is like you can go back and forth inside the chat with ChatGPT, and then you can actually build stuff. Now, depending on what you want to do, you've got two different options right there. I'm going to walk through the codex side of things first. So this is the new task section, as you can see. And from here, what we can do is we can just make sure that we have a new project set up. So what you'll see on the folder here, and you can click off it and then choose a new project if you want to. So we can click on new project, start from scratch, or we can use an existing folder. Now, you would use an existing folder if you wanted to start a new project. However, if you don't have something new, a existing project to change, then you can go to start from scratch. So we'll click on start from scratch, and super basic example. Let's start with the basics. Let's say, for example, you wanted to build out like a basic app, and you can build apps, tools, games, websites with this, whatever you want, really. It's a very powerful tool. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to type inside here, habit tracker, like so. And you can see that we can switch between working locally or creating a parallel copy of our project as well, or we can work in a cloud environment. So work locally is you work on your Mac. So for example, I have a Mac Studio. If I click work locally, that means I am building on my Mac Studio. If we select new work tree, that is going to actually clone our existing local project, and we can start building inside there as a new version of our existing project that's been cloned that we can edit later. And then we have cloud. So cloud means that we're working in a environment in the cloud, sandboxed away, and the agent can work directly there. That's good if, for example, you wanted to share the task or you wanted to sandbox the task. And you also see this usage remaining section. So what this usage remaining section means is that you have a limited number of tokens that you can use inside your app. And the more you use and the higher efforts you dial your model to, which I'll come on to in a second, the quicker you're going to go through your usage. And your usage depends on which package you're on. So if you're not sure which package you're on, you can learn more here. You can find out what codex plan you're on, and you can go from there. So what we're going to do now is we are going to tell it exactly what we want to build. And before we do that, we're just going to select the model that we want to use. Now, there's two options for selecting the model. The model is the brain behind ChatGPT. You can change and customize the brain behind it as much as you want. So, for example, if you wanted something really fast and lightweight that doesn't use many tokens, but probably wouldn't give you such great outputs, then you can actually change this to Terra Light. If you dial this up and you drag this forward, the higher it goes, the slower it'll be to respond, but the better responses you'll get, and the more intelligent the effort levels you're using. And there's actually three models with the new GPT 5.6. So the Soul is the frontier model, the most powerful. I would recommend if you're building something good, then you want to go with Soul. If you were just using the chat, basically, then you go with Terra. So we're going to dial this up to extra high. I think for you watching this, high is probably good as well. And you can also switch to advanced. And if you switch to advanced here, you can switch between the models. So Sol, Terra, Luna, 5.5, 5.4. These are older versions of ChatGPT. And then we can change the effort level as well, and we can change how fast it replies. So, for example, if we want this to reply fast, if I'm doing a demo, which I am today, then I will switch this to 1.5x speed, which means I'll use more tokens, but I'm going to do that for you just to help you and so you can see results faster today. But for you using this normally, this can code in the background, it can work on multiple projects, and you can just go with like the basic settings here, as you can see. So we've got the fast mode switched on. We have Sol high set up. And then what we're going to do from here is we're just going to add, we're going to start building this project. So whatever you want to build, you start going from here. Now you can actually click on these different presets as well. So you'll see, for example, fix issues and failures. Good if you have something you're already working on that you need to debug. Then you have review code and suggest changes. So you can actually get the AI to look through what you're creating, and then it can go from there. And we also have build a new feature, app or tool, and then we have explore and understand code. So you can switch between each of these as you go along. So from here, I'm going to go to build a new feature or app. I'm going to say build, and you see how we can build a feature, a UI, a prototype, an internal tool. We're going to build a prototype. I'm going to say habit tracker that's fun, easy to use, gamified, etc. You can say little things like beautiful UI. You actually, with the new models, with ChatGPT, like back in the day, you'd be very detailed in the prompts that you give it. Nowadays, you don't need to do that so much. You can keep it simple and you can go from there. So we're going to hit enter like so. Little tip here, you can press command and enter, and that will just enter it for you so that you don't need to click this button over here. You can also control the AI with your voice. So if you click on to dictate, then you can actually speak with your voice and we can ask it to do things like that. It will need access to your microphone, but we can allow that now. And you see how it's recording my voice. And then if we click on stop, it will actually translate what was said. So you can see it's actually translating over here. So you can type with your voice as well inside ChatGPT. And now you can see here that it's going to ask a bunch of questions, right? So it's like, okay, before I build, I need 3 choices. And these are basically forks that help the AI understand exactly what you're building, how you want to build it, and everything else. So, for example, we've got where should the prototype run? And so, what I'm going to do for here is we can select what type of app we want to build. So, for example, if I'm building an app for like the iPhone store, then I'm going to go with like native mobile app. If we go with mobile first, this is like a web app, but it's going to be responsive first, and then desktop is secondary. And then if we wanted to build an app for our desktop, then that's going to be the fastest to test, but it's not going to be native to mobile. Now, if you're wondering, okay, what does native mean? Well, for example, if we have a look at the agent operating system that we've built with all our agents plugged in, and you can build stuff like this if you want to using this system. Well, all these custom automations, they were built for desktop first, and then it can be mobile responsive later. But the point here is that when you're building with this stuff, you want to help it understand exactly where you are building for. And then we have the style to use. So you can change the vibe, the feel of this and everything else. So we could go with like dark neon, calm organic, pixel game, playful editorial, etc. So I'm going to go with playful editorial, and we can just copy that. Then we can go over here and we can say, okay, I want a responsive web app. And again, if you're building like a mobile app, then you could do that later by selecting native mobile app. And also all these things can be edited later. From here, we can switch between what type of prototype we want to build. So do we want an interactive demo? Do we want a functional local app? Do we want a full product foundation? Now, the difference between this is like an interactive demo is like, pretty simple, pretty fun to use, quick to build, but it's not going to be as functional as a functional local app, right? Where you can, for example, like save stuff, you can create and edit things. And then we also have the full product foundation. That means people can log in, you can have a database, you can store details for anyone who's using it, and they can save their progress as you go on. So, for example, you might start off with like an interactive demo. If you like it, if you're like, wow, this is good, we could build something out with that, then you could build later the full product foundation. For you, because I'm doing a quick demo in a course, I'm just going to go with interactive demo. So we're going to hit enter like so. Now that is thinking, and Soul is going to start coding. Now, one thing to note as we go along here is that you see how it's got the full access here. We can change the approval. Now, some people watching this will be like, AI coding agent sounds great. Bit scary that it's coding locally for me. What if it does some crazy stuff? So you can actually change the approval levels here. So you can switch between ask for approval, approve for me, or full access. Full access means it's not even going to ask you for changes. That's usually the default that I go with because I'm an advanced user. But for you, you might prefer to ask for approval just so you can check things and understand things before you allow it to do anything else. You could say approve for me, right? So only ask for actions detected as potentially unsafe. That could be, for example, like deleting stuff, editing existing files. If you've got an existing project that you've coded out, you might not want Codex to make any crazy changes. You might want to approve everything before anything goes live. So you can also switch with that. And now you can see that it's planning the whole strategy. So what you can see is it's reading all these MD files. MD files are just simple markdown files. Very simple way of the AI understanding skills. So, for example, it can read this MD and you can click on it over here. And this allows you to understand what it is doing, right? What's going on here. So, if we have a look, for example, at the typography, this is basically like a skill that helps ChatGPT build things out. So, for example, we have the typography section over here, and it has a pre built skill where it understands, okay, these are the principles of typography. This is how it works step by step. This is what it works with. This is what it should avoid, right? Mistakes to avoid. And it's basically like you level up the AI with skill sets. And if you have certain things that you want to train the AI to do, what's really good is you can create a skill. We can come on to that later. But you can see it's reading through all these different skills. It's understanding how to build them. It's also figuring out, okay, where should it build this as well? And then it's creating the environment over here. Now, the beautiful thing about coding with ChatGPT work in 2026 is that when you're building with this, you don't need to be an expert. There is no technical barrier. You don't need to understand HTML. You don't need to be a coder. And don't let the codex title sort of put you off. What this essentially means is that ChatGPT work can code for you and build out technical projects for you without you needing to. You just explain what you want. And you can see it's now running through the separate steps. So it's got multiple steps inside the project it's creating. So it's like, okay, first we're going to do the responsive prototype. Then it's going to implement the habit completion. And after that, it's going to audit accessibility and responsive behavior. We can also add another step here. So we can click on plus and we can add another step as well. So on the right hand side, you will see that we can review the whole project. We can see what's being done and we can see all the files being created by the AI in real time. First time I saw something like this, it was really off putting, a bit confusing. I was seeing code and I was seeing all these files. Again, you don't need to worry about any of that because when you're building this, Codex will sort it all out for you. Pretty simple and easy. So we have the separate typography files that we were looking at before. We can actually click off the review as well. So if you click the X on the right hand side, if you don't want to see that anymore, you can click on it. And then also if you want to expand anything, then you can click it like so. You can X off that. You can allow it to do web search. You can also see where it gets its sources from as well. So what it's doing to build this. And then we have the local files. So we can actually switch to Claude at any time. We can see the usage. So it's switched from like 99% left over the next 5 hours to 96%. So it used 3% in the space of doing this first test for us. Now what it's doing is it is working on each of these, as you can see here. So it's finished working for 5 minutes. And what we can say is just, how's it going? Or can we preview this? And we can click on review here and see what's working, right? So I'm going to say, can you open this? Or so you see how it says run it with here, npm run dev. I want to say, can you run it for me? And it will begin to think and it will start the server. Now, if you're wondering what the development server is, Basically, when it's creating something responsive like this, like a local web app, it has to run it locally somewhere. And so what it's going to do is run it on a local port. So if we click on open the habit tracker now, we can see the habit tracker on the right hand side. So if you ever see, like, for example, it says run it with and it tells you to run terminal commands, don't run it, don't worry about that. Just say, can you do that for me? If you're not technical. And it's basically as simple as that. So now we have the first preview of the app itself. And so we've built out a full responsive web app in the space of a couple of minutes. We can now open this up. So we can open it up inside ChatGPT, which we've done over here. We could open it up in Google Chrome or Safari or Google Chrome for testing as well. So if we open it up in Google Chrome here, you can now see that it is open directly inside my browser. So we can click off the tasks. We have this app ready to go. It's added the gamified sections that we talked about before. We can tick things off. And this is looking really cool, really interesting. Now, you might look at this and you're like, right, okay, how can we add my vibe to the existing app? So let's say, for example, you're like, right, okay, well, I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is pretty cool. But what I actually want to do is I want to make sure that when I'm building with this, it follows my brand guidelines. It looks and feels exactly like my type of website. So what we can do, for example, is I can go over to the AI profit boardroom with existing brand colors like this, and I can open up the code from this website. So I'll press Option, Command, and U if you're on a Mac. If you're not, you can just right click the page, click on View Page Source, select the details of the app, website, and branding that you want to emulate. And then from here, we can go back into ChatGPT. We can paste that in like so. So paste it in as a long document. And the great thing about ChatGPT now is that when you're building with this, it's got a large enough context window that it can actually understand and take everything that you've got here, even though it's a really long document, and it can process that to use it for inspiration. So if I'm like, okay, can you make it look plus feel a bit like the attached HTML, as this is my branding? And now what's going to happen is it's going to analyze the HTML and then use that in terms of the typography, the borders, the spacing, the motion, the colors, the brand language, essentially. And it's going to use that to create a more relevant, personalized version of my style. Now, if you really like what it's doing here, and if you're like, okay, I want it to do that every time and I don't want to paste it in every single time, something you can actually do here is you can create your own skill file. So as we were talking about before, the markdown file that we were talking about previously, you can now use that for future projects. So we could save this skill once it's done that, and we can say, okay, can you save this branding style as a branding skill MD file so that when I create pages in the future, you follow my branding guidelines. And I can call this skill file to change the style, right? Now, also, you can see here that when it was making those changes, the page went down and then when it went back up. That's because ChatGPT is editing the page in real time. It's making it better in real time. So if we hit enter like so, we can go with that. We can also do these different commands, which I'll come on to in a second as well. But in the meantime, we will just add that as so. So that's beginning to build out now, right, as you can see. And it says, yes, I'll package this as a reusable skill. So we asked it to save the branding style, which is emulated over here, as an existing skill, so that in the future, we can use this branding style and make more personalized projects in the future. So it's beginning to build that out now. And if we have a look at this newer version, we've got that ready to go. Now, this is still being used directly inside ChatGPT. But what you'll see at the top here is the local URL. So we can go back over to Chrome or whichever browser you prefer. We can have a look at this. And now we can see our updated project with the branding style that has emulated my existing website. So instantly, we can import our branding guidelines and make it look and feel exactly how we want to do it. So you can see here that it's got the scrolling banner. It's actually customized the brand to the bordering, which is part of our AI profit bordering style. We have the colors that look and feel exactly the same. So you can see right here. And then this still works and functions exactly the same. It just feels like us. It feels more relevant to us. And this is really important because if you're building projects out in the future, well, you want to make sure they all look and feel like yours. That's fantastic. Now, what we can also do is if we go back to ChatGPT here, we can see that our skill MD file is created. So this is the one that we have used for AI profit boarding branding. So it's basically written a new skill file. Anytime that you have a workflow, let's say, for example, you do SEO. With SEO, you could save SEO as a skill and then recall it in the future as well. So the great thing about that is you can come back to it later. You can save it right now. You can reuse it in the future. And it's really easy to come back to whenever you want to. And that means that every time you do a workflow that can be repeatable, for example, SEO, might be creating videos, it might be writing blog posts, anything like that, save it for the future so you can come back to it later. And if you want to change anything in here, then you can tell it, okay, avoid this in the future, and it can update the skill file for you as well. Now, what we've got now is a skill file, a full project created. We've coded it out. We didn't need to be able to code. We've got it hosted locally. We can test it out. We know how to open it inside our Chrome. We've made a lot of progress in the space of 21 minutes. What are we going to do next? So now what we can actually do is we could connect this to Netlify, because if you wanted to share it with the world, well, how can you do that? I would recommend that you use Netlify. And Netlify is a way to host your website so you can come back to it later. If you have an existing website, you can actually give the access details to ChatGPT and it can host it for you. So let me show you an example of this. So Netlify is where we host all our websites. We can log in here. So we're just going to log in to Netlify, as you can see. And you can actually host projects on here for free if you just want like a demo website. But if you wanted to host it on a customized domain like so, then you can easily do that as well. And then what we're going to do over here is we are going to go to the personal access token section. And what we can do is we can host our projects on Netlify. Now, I'm going to have this expire very quickly. So we're just going to have this set for 7 days. We'll generate the access token as an example. We'll copy that. We'll go back over to ChatGPT now, and we'll say, here's my Netlify access token. Please deploy this to Netlify for me, this website. And now it can begin to use that. Now it may ask for extra documentation. And obviously this is a quick example that I've created, so I will delete that in a second. But as an example of this, it's now deploying the validated website that we just created to Netlify, and then we can get a URL for it and share it with the world, which is fantastic. Because right now it's hosted locally, and obviously you can't share local projects. So these are some of the things you can do with it. Now, you can also have multiple different projects running at the same time. Let me show you an example of this. So one thing we did here is, as a test, we actually got Hermes Agent, like you can see. And we got the details of Hermes Agent, which is a free open source agent that we can use and run locally. And we gave that to ChatGPT so that it could start running Hermes Agent for us. So it says start Hermes with this. And I'm going to say, can you open plus run Hermes for me? And if you want to run an open source project with Hermes Agent, for example, or whatever you see on GitHub, and you're like, I want to set that up, but I don't know how, you can just say, install this, make sure it works. And you just hand it the link of whatever open source project you want to create. So that's another example of how we can use this. Now, if you're wondering, okay, where did that previous project go with the habit tracker? That is on the left-hand side. So you see how we've got a folder here that says habit tracker. And then we have over here another project that says Hermes Agent. So we can have multiple different projects being coded out side by side on the right-hand side, as you can see right here. And we now have Hermes open inside a terminal window over here, and it's configured it with GPT 5.6 Soul. So we can now use AI agents. We can get codecs to install AI agents for us. And whatever you want to build or run locally, we can go with. Now, you also see here that in the meantime, with our personal access token from Netlify that we asked ChatGPT to deploy for us, we have that available here. So if we open up that URL, we now have a shareable URL, this one right here, that we can share with the world. So if you create something cool and you're like, do you know what? I want to share that with other people in the world. Here's how you can do it. Now, if you go back to your projects inside Netlify and you wanted to add a custom domain to that, you can actually click on domain management, add a domain, buy a new domain, and you can find a new custom domain for your example, right? So we can type in best habit tracker, we can search for domains, and then if you wanted to host this instantly on a custom domain, you can just pick whichever one you want. So you've now learned how to deploy the project as well. We can also delete the personal access token. So for example, if I go back to my personal access tokens here, and we'll delete the project that we just built, as I've just shared that on a video, we don't want the whole world having access to my Netlify account, then we can delete it and we can come back to it later. So pretty cool. And what we could also do from here is we could use something like Superbase so that people can actually log into our website. So for example, if we have a look at this, you see how it's kind of like a functional demo. It works, but you can't like log in. There's no login page. There's no option to create an account. So if we wanted to link this to an app where we had a database where you could share this with customers, they can log in, you could use it for lead generation, etc. Then you can go over to plugins here, and you can type in, for example, Superbase. Now, Superbase is a system where we can install a database to whatever projects we create. So if we log in with a free account on GitHub, we can authorize that now, allow ChatGPT to edit and write for us. That's fully created. Now we can go back to the habit tracker over here. And also one thing to note is you can pin the task or you can pin the project. What that means essentially is if you have a project that you're like coming back to every single day, you don't want it to get lost in the list of projects that you have right here, you can click on pin project. And with the pin project, you can now basically come back to that later and it won't get lost. It won't get lost in the feed. It won't just drop down to the bottom. It will stay at the top and we can drag that to the top as well. So what we can do now is we can type in at to tag in the app that we want to deploy to. So if we have a look at this, we're like, right, okay, I want to deploy this to Superbase. So I'm going to say using Superbase, create a database where people can log in. Now, it's not going to have access to my Netlify anymore because I've removed that. So it will start running locally again. I'm going to say, make sure you just do this locally for me. You see how when we give a command, it's waiting. So what we have to do, if we want to update the existing chat here, this is a really useful feature, then you can click on steer. And steer means that whilst you are speaking to your agent, you can steer it in the right direction. So you can say, okay, do this, go over there, etc. Right? So you see how I said, make sure you do this locally for me, steer. So we interrupt what it's currently doing and we steer it in the right direction in case we forgot to instruct it. If you see it's going a bit off course inside the chat, which can happen with AI, but it happens less and less now, then what you can do is you can steer it at any time. So now it says, understood, local only. I won't create, restore, or modify any cloud Superbase project. I'll add a local Superbase database to it, wire the habit tracker in, and it's now going to build that inside Docker. Right? So it's now beginning to use that directly. Now I can say, okay, deploy it to my local project, but use at Superbase. You can use the cloud version of Superbase. Then we click steer and we guide it in the right direction as well. So that's one example. If you wanted to, for example, look at this app and you're like, okay, I really want to make this into a system that is an iPhone app, for example, then we can go back into ChatGPT and we can say, turn this into an iPhone app instead. Hit enter and steer it in the right direction as well. So whilst it was designing the auth gate with Superbase on the Habit Tracker project, we steered it in the right direction. So we're going to redesign the whole project to be an iPhone app instead. So those are the basic ways that you can build out projects with Codex. Now, what you can do over here is you'll see there's a bunch of other options. So for example, we've got scheduled, we have plugins, we have sites, pull requests, and chat. Let's start with chat. There's a big difference between the project section here inside ChatGPT Work and the new chat over here. So for example, if we're looking at this, we've got our recent chats. Now, these are actually pulled in from ChatGPT. So if we see all, we can see all of our previous chats with ChatGPT in the cloud. This actually syncs with our main ChatGPT account. So if I go to chat.openai.com, we can have all of our conversations on the left-hand side. And if we go back to ChatGPT Work, we now have the chats from the web app directly inside our local version of Codex. Fantastic. So now we can go back inside those conversations. We can actually add those conversations to a task as well. You can look through your history. You can create a new chat. And so if you just wanted to use ChatGPT Instant, you could say, okay, what time is it now? Just as a totally random example, but just to show you how you've got this different version. Now, you might be wondering, okay, well, when do you use the chat and when do you use the ChatGPT work features inside Codex? So let's just call this Codex part for now and this part chat. So with the chat feature, this is just good for going back and forth and getting quick answers in between projects. So it's kind of like you can use ChatGPT and you can use Codex at the same time. So you can build out projects, but you can use the power of Codex as well at the same time here. Now, also, if we go back to the conversation and we can minimize the chat now, if we go back to this conversation, it said before converting it, I need 3 decisions. Now, sometimes you might be in a rush or you don't really know the right answers. Now, at this point, the GPT 5.6 Solvis is very powerful. It's a very powerful frontier AI, but it's very easy to use and it's designed for non-technical people. So what you can actually do here is you can say, okay, figure it out and handle this for me. So if we type in that, it can actually decide for us and make decisions on our behalf. So if we are not sure of the right choices and you need to consult with GPT 5.6, you can ask it, you can get feedback, you can problem solve together. The same, for example, if you see things that you don't like inside the app, you can ask it, change this, add this. You can customize anything as much as you want, which is really, really powerful. So we also have the Hermes agent over here too. So when we are working, we can work on multiple different projects. We can multitask at the same time. Great for getting multiple things done, not great for focus. So if you need to be really, really focused and get something very complex done, then I would recommend that you just stay inside the chat here and you focus on one project at a time. But if you're trying to be super productive and you're building some big stuff out, and then you're switching between all these different things and you don't want to stand there waiting for 2 or 3 minutes for it to finish. As you can see, it works for 1 to 2 minutes each time, or sometimes 5 minutes at a time. Well, then you can have multiple different projects working in parallel and you can switch between them. So if we want to build on the habit tracker, we have that here. If we want to switch over to Hermes agent, we've got that here. And we can switch between these as much as we want. So with Hermes agent, for example, we could go inside and we could say, okay, can you set up image generation with GPT 5.6 inside Hermes? And we'll see if it can do that. And it might say no, or it might say yes. Now, also, that is one important thing to note here, is that when you are building out with ChatGPT, it has some advantages to Claude and other AIs that you can do. So, for example, if you look at ChatGPT, you can generate images. You can, for example, use web search, and Claude itself cannot generate images. And if you want to generate images with Claude, often you have to use the API, which can get expensive. With this system instead, you can use GPT 5.6 and the power of it on your existing subscription without paying for an API. And so, for example, if we want to generate images inside the chat, totally random example, we could click on the chat here. Let's just test this out. So we are going to say create image. So we click on the plus sign here, create image. And then we're going to say, okay, create an image of a dragon in a castle. And we can generate images on the side here whilst we're working on these two projects. So we've got Hermes Agent, we have the habit tracker, and we have the image generation inside the chat over here. Pretty cool. Now, when we're using this as well, so whilst these two projects are building out, so we've got the live tests with Hermes Agent for image generation. We have the setup with the habit tracker as well. We also have some options for more usability features. So I'm just going to minimize that. And also, we can add more apps to ChatGPT. So let's say, for example, you're working on spreadsheets. You could actually allow ChatGPT to edit and create spreadsheets for you. So you can click on try now, and you can just allow it to create spreadsheets. You could also go back to the plugins here and you can install whatever you want. Now, the more tools you add, the slower the response is, and also the more time consuming it can become to reply, and also the more tokens it uses as well. So you want to get that balance. Now, for example, we can have a look at all these apps and be like, okay, well, let's say, for example, I want to manage my emails. I can get ChatGPT Codex to use it right here. So I can click on install plugin, continue to Gmail. We can go over to Gmail here. We can connect our emails, as you can see. Click continue. Then we can go back to ChatGPT for work, and it's now connected to my emails. Right? So we can say, okay, summarize my emails, draft replies, process email threads. And so one thing that I used to have back in the day was a virtual assistant. And I would, hire them hourly. We'd get them to manage our emails, but sometimes they take weekends off. Understandable. Sometimes they get tired. Sometimes they don't follow your instructions. The powerful thing with something like Gmail inside ChatGPT, and you can do this for any workflow that you work on day to day, is you can actually get this to automate tasks for you. So I can replace a virtual assistant that would normally handle my emails with Gmail. And so we can automate and save time, be more efficient. And the other thing about this as well is that this is a daily task. So managing my emails, my Gmail account is a daily task. Now, I don't want to go into Codex and ChatGPT directly every single day and ask it to do this manually. So what we can do over here, now that we've added a plugin, is we can go over to the scheduled section and we can create a new scheduled task. So that means that as long as we have ChatGPT Codex running in the background here, we can come back to ChatGPT work and it will run scheduled tasks in the background whilst we're doing other stuff. So if we click on new task over here, we're going to say, let's set up a scheduled task together. We're going to select a new folder for this. So we can actually have this running in the cloud as well. We can start from scratch on a new project. And we can change this name to Gmail automation. Daily Gmail automation. So we'll hit save there. And then we're going to say, let's set up a scheduled task together. First explain how scheduled tasks work. You can do that if you want, but I'm going to delete that bit. And then I'm going to say, let's set up a scheduled task together. Manage my Gmail account on a daily basis at 4 a.m. every day. So that all my emails are drafted before I wake up, right? You can see the instant obvious benefit of that. We save time, we have an automation, we don't need a team, we don't need to manage everyone, and we've got it running on a schedule that I don't even need to worry about anymore. Now, you might be wondering, okay, well, what happens if the agent sends something crazy? or goes wild with this stuff, right? So that's why we've said it, do the drafts first. And then what we can actually do is we can pin that project as well so that we come back to it later. And it's now going to use that tool that we just added in one single click, which is Gmail, and it can manage my Gmail for me every single day on automation. And you can do this with any tool inside the plugins. So if you, for example, need to create a presentation every single week to, let's say, your audience about a certain topic, you could say, okay, schedule a daily or weekly task where you do some deep research for 1 hour. You find all the latest news in my industry. You create a presentation about it so that I can present that on a video. You could say, for example, go through my Notion and start posting a blog every single day about a certain topic. You could say, for example, every day, review my habit tracker. And based on the habit tracker we've built, make it better every single day. So you can see how you can create these loops that run in an autonomous cycle without you. So we've also got the image generated here as well from Hermes agent. And we can ask Hermes at any time, generate an image of, and it will generate images inside our AI agent. Now, one of the interesting things about this is that, if you went back a year ago, I'd have to install Hermes agent myself. I'd have to be the one who's problem solving it. I'm the one who has to run through the setup and the installation and everything else. Now, with GPT 5.6 Soul, it's so smart that it can do all of that stuff for us. And we now have image generation as a tool set up inside our Hermes agent. We have the habit tracker with the setup right here. And actually, we've got the habit tracker set up as a mobile device here. I'm going to go back into ChatGPT and say, allow me to preview the app. And it's going to start using it here. So we've been pretty productive so far. We've set up an agent with Hermes that can generate images for us as well now, and we've got an AI agent ready to go. We also have the habit tracker prototype. We've switched that to mobile. We've added the database, and people can log in and they can check that out whenever they want. We can actually open that up on an iPhone whenever we want as well, and we're good to go. We know how to use the chat over here, and we know how to automate our Gmails as well. So you can see now that we have the scheduled task for Gmail drafts running at 4 a.m. every single day. And here's what it's going to do. It's going to review my emails. It's going to read relevant thread context. It's going to avoid duplicate drafts. It's going to exclude like the newsletters and everything else. It's going to create the drafts inside Gmail. It's never going to send, delete, archive, or label emails, but we could ask it to do that if we were more comfortable with it. And we can report anything that it's drafted and flag anything. So now what I can say is, I want to test that scheduled task. I want to make sure it actually works in the background. So I'm going to say, okay, test it now. And so what it's going to do now is start looking through my inbox with Gmail and run the scheduled task. Now, if you want to come back to your scheduled tasks and see what you've automated, then you can see that over here. So if we go to the scheduled task section, we've got a list of all of them, and you can build these up. If you set up one automation every single day, running on a scheduled task, by the end of the year, you've got 360 automations set up, and you've pretty much automated every single thing inside your personal and business life. That's how powerful this can be. And it's a system that runs and improves every single day. It's something that gets better and better over time. Now we have the habit tracker app ready to go, so we can preview that in Chrome. Here's the app, as you can see. People can now log in before they start using this. We can create an account. We can type in our name. So let's test this out. Add a password, click create account, and just check this out. Let's have a look. So we can enter it now. And our habit tracker is built. Pretty cool. And then we can come back to Hermes agent, and let's just test that out as well inside terminal here. So I'm going to say create an image of a cat skateboarding. And you can see this working in the background. Now we've also created two drafts inside our emails for these two responses here, and this will just run on a daily task. Now, it skips some of the messages that we don't want to do, don't want to mess around with, and it creates these. And so we've automated our emails in the space of 2 minutes. Now, that will not be perfect. It will not write in the tonality that you want every single day. It will not do things exactly how you want it. So, how do you improve that? Well, you can say, okay, make, let's say, for example, the responses were too formal in our emails. And you would check your email inbox to check this and make sure you're happy with it. Or you can say, okay, send me the email draft that you've done so far. Hit enter like so. That's going to start thinking, and it's going to start reading the emails it sent. And pull that in so that we can have a look at it. We can also ask it to send emails for us as well. So we can say, okay, send an email to juliangoldy@gmail.com saying hello. It's like, sure, I'll send an email to juliangoldy@gmail.com right here. So if we pull up our emails now, we have the email, as you can see. So we've now automated our emails. We've taught ChatGPT how to send them, and we've got them handling our emails every single day on automation. And if you wanted it to actually like send emails live for you, you would change this. So you would say, instead of running on a schedule drafting emails, send them instead. Let's check Hermes agent as well now. So it's created the image using the GPT 5.6 automation that we talked about earlier. And what we can do over here is we can go back into Hermes agent and just say open up. And we can get it to open our image for us. Now it's also edited Superbase and everything else. Now, some other cool stuff that you can do with this, if we go back to plugins here, we have computer use. This is really impressive. So what it can do is it can actually control your computer, but it does it in the background without interfering with what you're currently doing. So if we click on try now, we can say create a post on school.com, and I'll send it the link to our school group. We'll go back into ChatGPT about the best ways to use ChatGPT work. And so we've told it exactly what URL to post at, what to post about, and to use computer use. And now you can see it's actually working in the background. So this little pop-up over here is computer use working directly. So if we go back to our Chrome here, you can see it's opened up a new tab. Now, this is my mouse moving inside to side. This is the Codex computer use agent working over here. Now, if we go back to the chat, it's actually given us a plan title and what it's going to do. I'm going to say, okay, talk about how to use it for SEO and include a link to a free SEO strategy session, something like that. Or you could say, I've created a 1-hour course inside the AI Profit Boardroom on how to use ChatGPT for work. Add that as a CTA inside the post, and we'll add a link. Use this link, and we'll include some other information about what it is. So, you could add your testimonials and that sort of thing. So I'm going to get it to post a value-driven post about how to use ChatGPT work and then how to get access. So it says, I'll add this CTA at the end. Perfect. Let's do it. And now it's going to add the post. So it asks you for your approval. It doesn't do anything crazy without you saying hello or you saying, okay, do this, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. And now we're going to get the computer used to post on school for us. And this works really smoothly with anything. You can see how smoothly it works here. So it's created the full setup here, and now it's posting for us with this gray cursor. If we open up the post, pretty nicely written, value driven post. So I did a nice little prompt on how to use ChatGPT work. It's kind of worked like magic. And you can imagine, like, if you were writing that, it would probably take about 5 to 10 minutes. If you're posting it, it's going to take a lot of clicking around, which uses up your energy. And that would also be quite time consuming. And then also remembering to add the CTA as well. It's better. And also, if you had the choice between like a virtual assistant or, hiring someone on your team for doing social media for you, or for example, just getting ChatGPT and ChatGPT Word to do it for you, which one would you do? I would go with this one. And also, the cool thing about this is we can say, okay, schedule that in every single day. So do this as a scheduled task every single day on something new and relevant in the AI industry, and you actually schedule that task in. And then we've got two automations built in the same morning. So we have the Gmail scheduled automation and we have the school post automation if we wanted to build that. So we can say schedule a new post in and do it every morning. And now we can create that scheduled task. Great thing about that is as well that people forget to do stuff. But if you tell the AI to do it, it can't forget. As long as you keep it open and you've got your desktop open, ready to go, then it's going to have this as a scheduled task. It'll just run like clockwork. And if you want to test it, you can do that anytime. Now, computer use is really cool. Building out the apps, really cool. Setting up new agents and new GitHub projects, very fun. Automating your emails, absolutely great. Saves a lot of time. Now, what you can also do is you can start using this to, for example, like create videos for you as well. So you can see here, we said based on this skill, create a video about the AI profit boardroom for our website. So we've taught it the skill of using Remotion. Remotion is another GitHub skill where it can basically create videos. So this AI agent can now create videos for us. So if we go back to ChatGPT now, we've got the full details here. And we could say, okay, create a new video every single day. Just like everything that you want to do on a daily basis, you can do with this process. If you want to watch the actual video that we've built, here we go. So that is the image, and then we have the video over here. So this is a video fully animated and fully created using ChatGPT Codex as well. And so if you're like, well, how do I automate my social media? Well, you can get it to post for you. You can get it to create videos for you. You can get it to post on a schedule for you. You can get it to automate your emails. Really simple and easy. I mean, for example, if you were doing lead generation or lead outreach, you could actually schedule ChatGPT work to reach out and generate leads for you on a daily basis as well. And the video itself is nicer and better, certainly than I can do, better production quality as well. And the other thing you could do here is you could actually link it to something like HeyGen, for example, and then it can generate videos with your AI avatar as well, which is absolutely mind blowing when you think about it. This is an image of a cat on a skateboard that Hermes generated before as well. Look at the quality of it, the colors and everything else looks super nice. And that was fully generated with Hermes agent that was set up by GPT 5.6. And the great thing as well about using GPT 5.6 on Codex is that instead of using APIs, you can use OAuth login. So instead of paying for GPT 5.6 Soul API or Fable 5 API from Claude, you can plug that OAuth login into Hermes agent, into OpenClaw, into any other agent that you use if you're into that sort of stuff. So productive morning. And here's an example of a website we actually built for the AI profit boardroom as well, using similar systems. So this created a website for us, one click, using this whole system. Now, you might be at this point wondering, okay, well, I've learned so much. We've learned how to basically link this to any app so that it can do stuff in the real world. We've learned how to schedule those tasks. So it's kind of like an AI employee that just runs 24/7 for us. We've learned how to automate anything and how to build apps, games, tools, websites, whatever we want using the system. You might be saying, okay, what do I do next? So for you, what I'd recommend is that when you're using all this stuff, look at where do you spend your time on? Because I've seen so many entrepreneurs in particular who love this sort of stuff, and it is fascinating. It's super exciting. I have loads of fun building with this sort of thing. But the problem is, a lot of people they get stuck, and they're like, okay, well, I'm building out all this stuff, and I'm spending all this time on AI, but I don't know how to be really, really productive with it. So what I recommend for you personally is that you write down all the tasks you're working on day to day. You track your time, what you spend on it, the tasks you're doing, and also if it's repeatable or not. And if you're wondering, like, okay, well, I don't want to write that myself, or how do I track that? So you can just use like a basic timer, or you could actually create a new project inside Codex for the time tracker. So we could say, create a time tracker where I can track and audit everything that I work on day to day and what I need to automate. So it's like a simple app where I log the task, how many hours I worked on it, whether I'm doing it every single day or the regularity of it, and how much time it took, plus the benefit of it. And this way, you can easily build an app where you track all your time. And then based on what you spend your time on, it's like, right, okay, I spent 3 hours on video creation today. That's what I need to automate next. Or for example, I spent 3 hours posting on social media today. Okay, I need to automate that next step by step. And then how do you automate it? You create a new project and you tell Codex exactly what you're working on and how you're doing it. You test it, iterate it, and then that just cycles. That just loops around and around. Now, another superpower of using Codex as well is something called /goal. So goal mode, as you can see here, you can set up a goal here and you can say, okay, continue this task to completion. So you see how it says goal at the bottom? You just type in /goal, hit enter, and then you can say, okay, build out a beautiful website and don't stop until it's ranking on Google. Build out a beautiful video and don't stop until it's absolutely amazing. And what that's going to do is cycle round and round. So, for example, we can say, build out a website for the AI profit boardroom and don't stop until you've got 50 blog posts created for SEO that are related to AI automation with Hermes Agent. So we've got that goal. Now, what you can see here is that it says, I'll turn this into a tracked goal and build it through to a verified site. I'm using the brainstorming app. So you know how I just told you to track your time, track your tasks, track what you're working on, and then start automating each part of that. You can use /goal mode to run that. And you can see right here. So it's like, okay, what's the CTA? So CTA equals this. And you can be really short with your answers, like if you don't have much time. Hermes agent equals an AI agent that you can learn about in the AI Profit Boardroom. The articles should be about 1,000 words each. So we're now going to tell it, okay, on the website, link to this page. Here's what Hermes agent is about. Here's what the articles should be about as well. And it's going to start pursuing that goal. And this, I've seen some people literally run this for days. So you can have an autonomous AI agent that runs without you and just focuses on that goal. This is great as well because, for example, if we go back to the habit tracker tool here, it was kind of a little bit too back and forth. We don't want to be prompting it like that all the time. We don't want to be going back and forth with it and having to check it every 5 minutes and then telling it what to do and making all these decisions if you're creating a lot of stuff and building something big. So what you can do with this instead is you give it the details of the project you're working on and you say, do not stop until this is done. And how this works is it loops around. So you have the goal that's working on an autonomous loop, and then you have a judge that actually looks at the goal and figures out, okay, is this goal completed to the quality or not? So it's a self-improving loop, and it will just loop around as much as you want until the job is finally done. And so that will tackle the task. It will take a few hours, but the job will get done. And this is so much more powerful than if you were, for example, like just going back inside the chat here. So these are all the things that you can do with it. You know, we've covered new tasks, scheduled, plugins. The sites feature here is basically like you can build out your own websites using this stuff. And then we have, for example, pull requests and the chat plus how to build anything inside Codex, how to see your previous projects over here, the tasks as well. So we have all these tasks that are being worked on in the background. So for example, when we gave it the task of doing the school post, you can see that the task is over here, right? So you got the different tools that you can use, the pin projects, the projects that you've worked on previously that are not pinned, and then you have the tasks that have been worked on as well. And you can minimize any of these. So if you click on them, if you want to clean it up, you can do it like so. And then there's not loads of stuff on the sidelines here. And you can also drag this and resize it as well. And then inside your settings, if you click on the bottom left here, there's something called a pet. Now, pet shows you everything that you are currently working on. So all the recent chats, all the things that you've recently done. So if we click on the pet, if it's working on a task in the background, for example, like this one, you can go over to Chrome, you could be doing something else, and the pet will tell you what's going on. And also, if you click on it, it will take you straight back to ChatGPT work, as you can see here. So it's a really powerful app, super useful. GPT 5.6 Soul, especially, is unbelievable, really powerful. If you ever want to stop one of these tasks, you can click on stop over here. And that's basically it. That is how to automate and build anything with Codex. And again, this was thanks to Jason, who actually just asked this question. If you want to ask me questions like this, you can check out the AI Profit Boardroom. Inside the community, I create a video tutorial like this, answering everyone's questions every single day. Inside the classroom, you can get access to all of our best trainings for this stuff. We actually have a full 1 hour course on how to use GPT 5.6 as well. And we have a full agent operating system that allows you to use all this stuff inside one amazing dashboard. And then we have new daily trainings based on what's actually useful. You get a video tutorial and a step-by-step guide here as well. Inside the calendar, you can jump on weekly coaching calls, you can ask questions, share your screen, jump on a Zoom meeting, meet other cool people doing this sort of stuff. And inside the map, you can actually connect with people locally near you who are building amazing stuff like this too, using agents like Hermes Agent, using Codex, using agent operating systems, etc. And inside there, Profit Boardroom, you can direct message me as well. So feel free to get that link in the comments description or go to the aiprofitboardroom.com. Thanks for watching. Let's see what questions we got here. Bonnie says, hi, welcome. Walter, my man, hope you're all doing great. Loving the content. Thank you very much. That's so funny, Johnny. Thank you so much. ChatGPT Go is needed. Yeah, you do need like I think one of the subscriptions to use it, but it's super powerful. So at this point, honestly, from what I'm testing and seeing, like I would say that Codex is easier to use than Claude. I'm very tempted to start switching stuff over. Thanks very much, Jay. Whoa, 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 whoa. England versus Argentina on the World Cup. That is going to be wild. I just watched the Norway match this morning. Would you say GPT 5.6 is as good as Fable 5? Absolutely. If you check out Goldie Bench, we've put all of these models to the test for 50 different tasks. And you can check everything out on Goldie Bench. You can see everything that we've built with it. You can demo everything that we've created, as you can see right here. So you can play any of these games, see what it's like, etc. And I would honestly say like GPT 5.6 is very, very good. Like it's Fable 5 level, undeniably. And if you want to see all the other stuff and how Fable 5 performed and what we created with Fable 5, you can check it out all here as well. Grok is best. Wow, controversial. I like Grok. I don't think it's at the same level as something like Fable 5 or ChatGPT, but I do think it's very good. All right, I'm going to take a little break. Back in a sec, peeps. Chat. We have, for example, if you have any questions, by the way, while I'm just working on the next one, feel free to ask. So today I want to be answering some of the latest questions inside the AI Profit Boardroom. This is something that I do every single day inside the community. If you have any questions yourself, feel free to post. Link in the comments description, and I answer these questions and just try and help you as much as I can. I know if many of these people have the same questions, and you probably have these questions too. So let's get straight into it. So Alex is saying, and he's talking about the agent operating system, which is a system where we basically have a mission control for all of our AI agents. So we can put in our goals, we can journal, we can see all our agents working on online and everything else. We have them all plugged into one system, right? And it works with a memory system too. And so this is something that a lot of our community members love about the community. So the first question that we have from Alex is, I've been building and expanding my operating system and was wondering if I could set up the folders in iCloud or on a drive that I can access somewhere and I can use it across my 5 Macs. So I think one of the easiest ways to do this would be to get your Google Workspace API And with Google Workspace, you can give your agents an API that they can write files to. Now, if you share access across your OS on multiple Macs, then any files that you create on Google Drive can be shared with the same access token across every single Mac and every single instance of the operating system as well. Another option, second option, is that you have a VPS setup and then all of your agent OS instances run directly inside that VPS and you could save files locally on the VPS. We actually have a few tutorials on how to set up an agent operating system with a VPS below. You can use Cloudflare to set that up with Hostinger. So two options there. Number one, you set up Google Drive and you share that across all your agents. So for example, if you've got Hermes agent or Codex working on multiple different devices, they can all save to Google Drive. Or the other option is that you have a VPS and you save files locally. We got another question from Jason. So Jason was asking like how to use the latest new ChatGPT app. I've actually done a 1 hour course on this and put it inside the AI Profit Board already. But basically, Codex is rebranded to ChatGPT Work. And with ChatGPT Work, you have ChatGPT built in. So you can click on the chat over here, or you can use the Codex features inside here as well. So if you want to build stuff, use the projects on the left hand side. If you just want to use ChatGPT inside there, you can use the chat here as well. And if anyone's running on the older version of Codex, just update. You get the latest version with both of these features. But yeah, it's basically like one big super app that can build apps, websites. It can create videos for you. It can connect to all your favorite apps, and it can create schedule tasks as well. Really, really good. I also prefer the UI inside ChatGPT versus Claude. It seems a lot easier to use, and GPT 5.6 Soul itself is absolutely amazing. If you want access to the system with the 1 hour course, here it is. But there you go. Next one. So this is pretty cool. Connor is saying like I would like to create an AI avatar in order to create a training course for team members. Also to be able to create one-off videos and everything else. What are the right tools to set this up? So we actually have a full training on this. And this is the same system that our whole team uses. So you can see it over here. And this is like the AI avatar setup. Now, if you want to, for example, add nice like B-roll and stuff like that, we actually show you how to automate that over here as well. So if you want to set up the voice too for the AI avatar, we have a full process here. But yeah, AI avatar videos are super powerful. I've seen a lot of people get great results with them. As an example of that, if you actually go over to our Twitter account, you can see like we really only post like AI avatar content on there. And yesterday we got like 550,000 impressions in one day. So you can reach a lot of people, and a lot of people actually prefer, sadly, we live in this world, a lot of people actually prefer our AI avatar content. So yeah, that's it. And then you can see like loads of people inside the community help each other as well inside this group. So there's lots of good tips inside here. For example, let's have a look. Sheena actually just built a learning platform for a client that includes AI avatars. David was using Gemini for this as well. So you can use Google Gemini, but loads of great tips inside there. This is really cool. So Lee is working on a AI employee platform where basically he can give his agents missions and they work creatively to solve the problem. And he's actually shared the whole process. Look at that. How cool is that? This is some of the stuff people working directly inside the AI profit boarding, like some of the cool projects. I think it's a great example because This is great. Like, number one, thanks so much for sharing. But number two, how crazy is that? That you can build out your own platform and have autonomous agents just go off and do work? Absolutely mind blowing. So we got a question from Trevor here, which is how do you use the free API, which is OmniRoute? Actually, and then you know, can you give Hermes workflows with OmniRoute as well? So when we're using OmniRoute, there's a few options. Some of the ways that I use OmniRoute are number one with the OmniRoute coder inside the agent OS. Number two is with free Claude code. And number three is with Hermes. And it seems to work okay. If you're getting the fetch failed, I would just make sure that for whatever agent you use to set up the agent OS, you give the details of OmniRoute and the GitHub directly to the agent and say, keep testing it until it eventually works. Because it might be that the agent that set it up for you has routed it incorrectly and just needs to iterate. But anytime I have a problem like this, I always just give it to the agent and ask it to fix it and test it for me until it finally works. And then I just give it a final check. And if anyone's not familiar with OmniRoute, it's a free GitHub where you can basically code for free across like 90 different models. And it's like a free API for coding. Obviously, it's not like Fable 5 level, but it's pretty good. And then, for example, if you wanted to set this up with Hermes Agent, let's say, for example, I'm using ChatGPT for work, I can go into the Hermes Agent project, which we have over here, and I can say, create a separate profile inside Hermes Agent that uses OmniRoute. Then test that it actually works and iterate until it finally works. Make sure it's all configured properly inside the Agent OS. So that's how I would approach it. Now, there's a good question from Matt here who's asking about OMI. Now, if you're watching this, you're not familiar with OMI, basically it's a way that it can listen to your conversation. So it can listen to my microphone and it can watch my screen. That means that it has a lot of memories on me what I'm working on. So, for example, you can see 45 minutes ago, here's what I'm working on, and it like takes notes on me and what I'm working on day to day. Now, one of the problems is that it's fantastic for using inside Obsidian as a knowledge graph, but one of the biggest issues is that it is not running on Windows. So, how do you get that set up? There's actually an alternative to this, which is another free GitHub that you can use instead. And you can use it on Windows. Then you can ask that GitHub project to sync with Obsidian instead. And you can use the plugin system with the AI prompt journal. So if you're on Windows, you want to use Omi, you can use it like this instead. And this basically does the same thing. So that is basically it for all the latest questions inside the app offer boarding. We've handled every question, given instructions clearly on how to like solve each problem as well. If you want to ask me questions like this, feel free to join the app offer boarding. It's just an awesome community where we win, we learn, we grow together. You saw all the awesome wins, people sharing. We actually have over 197 pages of testimonials from people winning and learning and growing with this sort of stuff. So you can see all the awesome reviews and testimonials. It's just a great place to learn and share everything together. And I think as well, when you're learning AI, like the fastest way to learn and get the most out of it is to be part of a community where everyone's just leveling up and improving every single day. So if you want to get this, feel free to get it inside the app of boarding. Link in the comment description. You can ask questions inside the community. There's always people online 24/7 as well, so you can get help and support whenever you want. Inside the calendar, you can jump on weekly coaching calls, share your screen, ask questions in real time. Inside the classroom, you can actually get all of our best training. So if you're a complete beginner, you can go from beginner to expert over here. And if you want to get our new daily updates, we add them inside here. So for example, we've just added a new 1 hour course on how to use ChatGPT 5.6, how to reduce the amount of tokens you use, how to use free APIs like Tencent HY3, and also you can get our full agent operating system inside there too. Inside the calendar, you can jump on weekly coaching calls, share your screen, ask questions in real time, and then inside the map, you can meet people locally who are building with AI agents like you. So feel free to get that link in the comments description, or just go to the aiprofitable.com. Thanks for watching. All right, I'm just gonna go and be back in a sec. Next up, we're going to be talking about agent operating systems, how to use them, how to build them, etc. So we'll come on to that in a second. Back in about 5 minutes. Thank you. Agentic operating systems, full 1 hour course, how to build and automate anything. So, today I'm going to show you exactly how to build your own agent operating system based on what's working for me. If you're wondering what an agent operating system is, basically it's a way to have all of your agents inside one beautiful dashboard where you also build out custom workflows and you have everything one click away. And the amazing thing about this is that you can basically have everything in one single place that's ready to automate and operate as you want. So let me give you an example. Like for me, I used to spend a lot of time creating videos. And so we created this video agent that basically does that for us in one single click. We have, for example, an SEO content pipeline where we can research stuff, we can find the keywords, we can generate content, and then we just deploy it to our website in one single click. And basically everything that you want to automate, you can automate using these systems. So for example, Hermes agent, not very fun in the terminal. If you're just using the terminal, not that great. Even if you're using, for example, Hermes Desktop, you still can't get it exactly how you want. With this system, for example, we have Hermes Jarvis, which is a voice operated AI agent, and it looks and feels exactly how I want it to look. It's got all of my projects over here. And we also have, for example, like Hermes Oracle that pulls in the latest trending news and everything else. And I'm not saying that to boast or to show off mine or anything like that. I just want to show you what's possible with this sort of stuff. So, for example, this is Hermes Astros, which again is a custom workflow, and you can rename this. You can change it how you want. You can build whatever you want using these systems. And this, for example, actually takes the latest news from Twitter, gives us the trending topic ideas, looks at different titles we could use for that content. And then also we can just plug that into the video agent. So it can automate the video. We could plug it into Notebook.lim and create, for example, free infographics and all that sort of thing. And then we could create SEO content for you. And you can build all of this for free using your existing subscriptions as well, which is very important to know. So for example, if you have ChatGPT already, and you already subscribe to it, well, you can actually use ChatGPT to build all of this out. I actually personally used Opus 4.8 inside Claude, and I've used Fable 5 to help me a lot along the way. And for example, if you have something that's a problem you want to solve, let me give you an example. So a lot of people ask me, like, how do you automate leads and email outreach using something like Hermes? So with Hermes, we have a tool here that can generate leads. We just type in exactly what type of leads we want to get here. It generates a list of leads. Then it has all the campaigns. It can write the email campaign itself. Then it can actually send the emails with these campaigns. It pulls in all the lead details. And then from there, we can manage the metrics. So we can see how many leads we got, how many we validated, how many are sendable, how many we actually sent, how many replied. And we've got our inbox and sent inbox fully automated with Hermes Agent inside one beautiful dashboard. And that just saves so much time. So this is the power of this stuff. This is how amazing it is. And you will learn how to build all this today. And I'm going to show you exactly how you can get started. So if you're wondering, you know, why I'm the right person to show you this, I literally spend about 3 to 4 hours a day coding this out and making it better and better. And there's so many mistakes that I learned along the way, so many things that I can improve. So with that, let's get straight into this. So I'm just going to be using GPT 5.6 as an example. I quite like Soul. I think it's great to build with. And you can see that we've got GPT and ChatGPT work over here. It's stored as an app. Now, for example, we've set up Hermes Agent. That's fully ready to go. We've used GPT 5.6 as the brain inside Hermes Agent. And now we want to, let's say, create a dashboard with it. So what we can do here is we can actually go inside the chat here and we can say, okay, now create a mission control dashboard where I can operate ChatGPT Codex plus Hermes Agent. And we can say, make it clean, make it beautiful, make it interesting to use, make sure it actually works. And then if you have an idea of what you want to create, so let's say, for example, you have a certain design style or that sort of thing, well, you could actually use that for inspiration when you're building this out. So if we wanted to build this setup inside ChatGPT, we can just take a screenshot, plug that in, and just say, I've attached an example of the style that I want to create. And so we can hit enter now, and that will begin building this out. So if you want to start from zero and you want to build it exactly how you would like it in a way that's easy to use, you can go from there. Now, I'll also show you another way that you can do this. So if you want to use someone else's template, So, for example, we have a version of mine inside the AirProfit boardroom that we actually update every time I code out for 3 or 4 hours. I will actually save that, so you can see the zip file here. If you're wondering how do you install this, so you would do the same thing. You can use whatever agent you prefer. So that could be ChatGPT. It could be, for example, Claude, whatever you prefer. And we can start a new project, start from scratch, save that new project, and then we can add this. So we can add the zip file. So we can grab the zip file over here, which is there, and we can say install and configure this agent OS on a local port we don't already have running. So I like to run these things locally as well. And we'll come on to that and why in a second. But now we have two options. So we can use the setup from the AirProfit boardroom, and that's just kind of like ready to go and all good to go. Or the other option that we have is if you just want to build this out free from scratch, you can go and build it inside ChatGPT, as you can see. So now it's going to say, okay, what should the dashboard be able to do? So it says before implementation, I need 3 decisions that materially affect the architecture. So we have agent control, we have workspaces, we have application format. Now, for me, I'm going to say just allow it to run locally for me in Chrome and have one fixed folder and allow it to be fully operational. So this is something important to note. So you see when it's asking you like, do you want it for operations so that it can actually like edit files, it can do things autonomously for you, or do you want it kind of like a chat? For me, I don't want a chat because if I just want to chat, I'll just go to ChatGPT over here. And that is exactly why I actually created the Agent OS, because when you're just going back and forth inside the chat here, it's super limited. Like it doesn't feel agentic, it doesn't feel powerful, it doesn't really have everything that you want, and it's very, very limited in terms of what it can do. So that's why I prefer it to be like way more powerful. The whole point of this is to build something absolutely amazing that can basically automate anything. It just runs like magic. So that's why we are setting it up like this instead. So you can see over here, this is beginning to install now as well. All right, so you can see that we've got two options here. We have the Agent OS being installed locally from the template, and we have the Hermes Agent OS over here too. So you've got two different options. Now, both of these will run, like you can see, I'm actually going to switch this to fast mode. So I'm going to say switch to fast mode now, just so that we can get faster outputs from both of these. That's already enabled, which is great. And now when we're using here, you can see that it's beginning to use this local setup. So you'll see a number like this. Now you might be wondering, why are you running it locally? Why not just run it on a VPS? Here's something to consider. And this is something that I saw when I was looking at all the mistakes from OpenClaw and a lot of the issues that people faced, is that there were two things with agents that you have to be very careful of. Number one is that you have to be careful because when you're building with this sort of stuff, if you give access to multiple different devices, then someone externally could access your agent OS. And if it can edit files, if it can control your computer, if it can do everything like that, it's not that secure. If you're giving the world access to it. So that's why I don't recommend that. Instead, what I recommend instead is that you use a system like this and you run it locally. Now you can run it on a VPS. We have plenty of AI profit boarding members who do that, and then they just limit the tools that they give access to, but it's up to you how you want to do it. Now, you can see that we already have the Agent OS installed over here. So this is fully installed, as you can see here. We've got everything set up. It's set up on a separate Agent OS local port. So for example, if we go over here, this is my actual Agent OS, and we have the template over here. So it's pretty easy. And the thing to note here is like when you're using this, you just need to configure everything, right? So it's now running using the template that I gave it, but I'm going to say configure everything. And just to make this simpler for you to understand, we're going to rename this project. I'm going to call that templated setup. And then we're going to use this project here, and we're going to call this starting from scratch, right? We'll just call this new Agent OS example. So we've got two different options right there. So now it's said, okay, before I configure it, we're just going to go through step by step, setting up each part that doesn't require an API. I'm going to say yes and figure this out, right? Just so that it can start working directly there. Now we have the other setup here. So this is the other version working locally. As you can see. And then I just want to make sure of one thing as well, that we don't have overlapping ports. Yeah, so this is starting on this port, which is 3200, and this one is running on that port, which is 127. Now, you can actually see when you're doing this, like it does a very good job of building out locally and also emulating the style that we want. So we'll see how these go. So it says core scaffolding is in, I'm wiring this out, blah, blah, blah. Now, whilst we're waiting for those two tasks, both the new one and the templated version to be done, something else to consider is the memory setup. Now, there's so many different memory options. Like, for example, if you've never come across it, Hermes agent memory, so many different options right there. You can use loads of different persistent memory. There's lots of different options for this. The reason that you would have a memory is so that you're not starting from scratch, and also that you link everything together. So if we have a look, for example, at this setup over here, when you're building this out, all of these agents can use the context from our memory system. Why would we want that? We would want that because, for example, one of the reasons you want to have an agent OS is that you don't go in between different apps and have to configure everything separately. So normally what happens, and this is a big problem for most people, is like they will go over to ChatGPT and then they'll go over to Claude, and these two things, they don't sync together. They don't work together. So what you want instead is a memory system. How do you build a memory system? You can go into Obsidian. Obsidian is my preferred memory system. And Obsidian basically stores everything as markdown files in a beautifully organized system like this. Now, if you're wondering how to get Obsidian, you can just go to Obsidian, and it's a free app that you can download. It's actually open source as well. So you can just get Obsidian and then you configure it like that. It won't look as beautiful like this, but you can ask the agents to organize and smarten it up for you and organize it properly so it looks more efficient. So step one is building out the dashboard, which we've got ChatGPT working on over here. And then step number two is that we are building the memory system inside all of this so that when we're using Claude and when we're using ChatGPT and if we're using Hermes, they all sync together. They all work together. So the reason for that is like then the agents know exactly what you've worked on, which means you'll get better responses, you'll get more personalized responses, and it'll be easier to use each one. So if we have a look at our memory system over here and we scroll in, this is our memory galaxy. So every single dot that you can see is a individual memory, and this is all linked together inside one beautiful galaxy where we've got all of our files over here that we can preview and we can have a look at. Right, really easy to use. And so when we're doing this, it means that we can sync our memories together and we can have every agent basically understanding what the other agents have worked on. And the other thing to note about all of this system is like every single dot inside here is, for example, like a person or a project or a business or a tool that I've used, and it all gets synced inside one place. Now, when you're doing this as well, you don't have to create all of this yourself. You should get your agents to do it. So you can say to, for example, Claude, hey, Claude, based on everything I've worked on recently, just create an Obsidian file and organize that. And then you can say to ChatGPT, okay, based on my local Obsidian vault, can you just improve this, blah, blah, blah. Right? And that's how it works step by step. One thing I'm just going to do here is I'm going to say, don't remove the previous system that was set up on the local port, just create a new one. So we still need the agent OS on the old port, because what it's done is basically taken my old port down and then replaced it. So make sure the old one on, let's find this local port is back. It's back up ASAP. And then you can use a totally different local host. So that's something to know as well. Is like when you're running this locally, if you're running other projects like other GitHub projects in the background, you don't want to have them conflicting because you can only run one local project on one local URL. So we've talked about memory and we've talked about how to build a dashboard. Now, also, it's important to note with the memory as well, something that will make it a lot easier is you can use something like Omi. And Omi can actually record your screen, take notes, it can listen to your microphone, it can understand what you're working on, and then it can create a list of memories here. So you can see, for example, 21 minutes ago, 1 hour ago, 1 hour ago, it understands everything that we've been working on recently. That's really useful because then I don't have to take the notes myself and it actually gets more detail than any other agent that I'm working with. So when we're using Omi, which again is another free open source project, I think they do have a subscription if you're using it a lot. But if you're just using a basic version of it, you can get access right here. Right? It's available on Omi. It's MIT license. It listens to you, understands what you're working on, takes notes, and then you can actually export that to Obsidian. So we've got Omi, that goes to Obsidian, and we go from there. So if we go to home inside Omi, and then we go to the settings, and we check this out, we can then export this directly to Obsidian as well, which is really, really useful. So this is building out now. And you'll see here that this is quite a big project for ChatGPT to work on. So when it's building it out from scratch, you can see here that it's beginning to build it out step by step, working on everything, prioritizing the UI and the integrations here. But it might take a few minutes. It's been coding out for like 10 minutes already, just working on this brand new Agent OS. Whereas, for example, as you saw before, we've already got the Agent OS live with the template. So it's way faster to use a template than it is to use a brand new setup from scratch. So if you want to save time, I would just go with the template inside the app of module. But if you want to build your own from scratch, this is how you can do it over here. Now, when we're waiting for those to run, one other thing to note here is that whilst we're building this and we're creating stuff out, you only need to add what's relevant. One feature that I built in, and I recommend this for you too, is that you have an option to hide things because what we're trying to build here is something where we focus on the system, not the model. So if, for example, OpenClaw, go back like 2 months ago, this was probably the biggest AI agent in the world. It's only recently that people stopped using it, and that includes me because Hermes took over. So my point here is that you want to focus on the model, on the system, not the model. So you can hide OpenClaw and you can add it in. And I would allow that for yourself as well so that you can move things around, you can change it because things in AI are crazy. Like GPT 5.6, as soon as it came out, absolutely mind blowing. But GPT 5.5, I would never build anything like this with it. So as you go along here, there's going to be things that you swap out that you don't need. I mean, if you look at my setup as well, because I'm testing so many things all the time, I have loads of tools here. But for you personally, you might only use Hermes or you might only use Claude, and you just need to build out separate workflows for each one. So that's something important to know. It's like you don't have to use everything that you see here. It doesn't have to be as complex as this. One thing that I learned along the way was the simpler you can make this, the better because you won't use every feature. I mean, for example, Kimi code, I personally haven't used for weeks. So I should probably hide that. But I can always reuse it if, Kimi K218 comes out and then it's absolutely mind blowing. So you see how you can swap things in, you can swap things out, etc. So you got the mission control here. You got the daily goals list as well. This is really useful. I'd recommend building this into. And any feature that you see here that you're like, right, I want to add that in. Or for example, let's say you have an idea and you're like, I need to add that in, I need to add this in, etc. Right? Well, when you're building any of this out, you can go back into ChatGPT and you can say, okay, great. now build out a daily journal section, or now build out a daily habits tracker. Whatever feature you have in your idea in your mind, you can build in, and you can ask ChatGPT to build it. And if it's taking ages to reply, you can just say, okay, add a journal feature. And if you type /steer inside, or if you add the message here, it will actually give you the option to steer it in the right direction if it's in the middle of coding. So that's how it works step by step. Now, if we have a look, we've got the mission control template installed. So this is actually the template from the AI Profit Boardroom. If we have a look at the setup from the Agentic OS that ChatGPT has built, it looks similar, but this is the version where you're starting from scratch. Now, when you're building this out step by step, actually looks really nice. When you're building this out step by step, you want to test it out. So let's just test, are you working? And you'll see things that you want to improve. You'll see things you want to make better. And actually, if you have a look at this, it totally blanked. So we said, are you working? And then it just didn't reply. So when we're fixing stuff like this, and this is why it can take quite a few hours per day for me to test out and improve this, we need to drag that screenshot in and say, hey, this isn't working. Can you fix it? And we'll delete that previous response that we gave it. For example, it's not replying. And also when I click enter, it actually just had a blank screen. So just make sure you test and actually make sure it works. So it's much easier to start from a template. A template will actually work. Whereas, for example, this setup won't. And you see how this is running through each stage of the process. Whereas, for example, with the new version from scratch, it created a nice UI, but it didn't even test it, even though we previously asked it to. And that's on GPT 5.6 so extra high. So because it's such a big project and because it was coding for so long, it kind of forgot to do what we asked it to do. Because we said, make sure it works, make sure it actually, actually works step by step, but it doesn't. It just created the UI. So we've got the UI, the user interface that's looking good. We just need to make sure that the rest of it is working now too. So it's going to start improving that as well. So if we come back to ChatGPT, that's beginning to analyze it as well. Now, also the great thing about ChatGPT, and you can use Claude for this, you could even use Hermes for it. Although I think if I had a choice out of all these, I'd use ChatGPT or Claude at this point because it's just much more visual when you're building stuff like this. You can actually fork the conversation, right? So you can click on new over here, and inside the same folder, you can have agents working in parallel on building out the agent OS. Now, this is really, really useful. So, for example, when I'm coding out the agent OS inside Claude, what you'll see on the left-hand side is that I will test and run different implementations side by side at the same time. What I mean, for example, is that when I was building out the video agent, I was also working on the SEO agent, and I was having them both being built side by side inside the agent operating system. And so the great thing about ChatGPT as well is that you can just start a new chat here and you can say, add inside the agent OS an image generator. And then we'll say, use GPT 5.6 for generating the images with the OAuth /CLI setup, and make sure it actually works, plus allow me to save anything that I create. And so what you can see here is that we now have two conversations at the same time for our new agent OS that we're building. So every idea that you have that you think, wow, this would be valuable, you can build it at the same time. And this means, for example, you can have like 6 different conversations inside the same project that are being coded out side by side. So we could have, for example, a video agent, an SEO agent being coded out, the lead generation being coded out, and we just add in new workflows inside the agent OS system as we go along. So you can see here that it's asking a few questions. I'm just going to say, yeah, just figure it out and build it out, right? I don't need to give instructions like that to GPT 5.6 because it's smart enough to figure out for me. And if it really is bad, then okay, no problem. I can go back and fix it later. The other cool thing about using this is that whether you're using, for example, Claude or using ChatGPT, you can plug in your existing subscriptions into this system. So if you use Claude a lot, ask it to build Claude CLI into the agent OS. And that way you don't need to use API, which means that you don't blast through loads of tokens, which means that it doesn't cost you anything extra to number one, build the agent OS, and number two, use the agent OS. Because, for example, if we have a look inside the system, we have an agentic OS system with Claude, with Hermes, with anti-gravity, with Codex. Now, Codex already subscribed to ChatGPT before I built this, and so it didn't cost me anything extra. Claude already subscribed to it before I built it, didn't cost me anything extra. Hermes, free open source project, we plugged OmniRoots and Brain into it, doesn't cost me anything. So you see how you can build these agentic operating systems for free? That's very important to note as well. And now this is beginning to code step by step. It's adding the image generator inside there. It's installing Hermes as well. And by the way, for the actual agent OS system that uses a template, that was all set up and configured here. So it says the new system has separate configuration. And what I would do if you're installing this template from scratch from the Profit Boardroom is just tell it, listen, test everything out. Anything that doesn't work, tell me, and make sure that you authenticate it, or if you can't authenticate it, that you ask me so that I can set it up. So the template setup is pretty much finished at that point. That's way, way easier. Whereas, for example, building out an agent OS from scratch, you could be here for a few hours, or, you might see something that breaks tomorrow and then you have to go and fix it as well. Now, when we were talking about the memory system as well, that Obsidian system, you can go back into the agent OS here and you can say, also add the memory system from Obsidian. So I have Obsidian installed locally. Install that into the agent OS as well, so it's automatically synced. And also make sure the ChatGPT and Hermes are synced to my memory system. So when I use them, you update the Obsidian as a new Markdown file. But also when I ask you questions, you learn from the Obsidian vault that we have locally, and you use that as context. That way, everything is personalized inside the agent OS. So this is a memory system and how you can install that. And this is pretty cool because now we have the front end plus functionality that's being tested over here. We have the custom workflow that we're building out here. And we have the memory system that's being built over here. So we're adding 3 different layers as we go along. And we've done that in the space of, 27 minutes? There's going to be some workflows as well that you have ideas for, and you're like, there's no way it could do that. I would genuinely just ask, because most of the time, GPT 5.6 can handle anything that you throw at it. I've not seen GPT 5.6 be unable to build this stuff out. It's pretty unbelievable, everything that you can use here. And so I'm going to say, figure this out. If I had more time, if I was here for a few hours or whatever, then what I would actually do is give it more instructions and be more in depth and just take a little bit longer to answer these questions. But I'm trying to save you time, and I'm trying to show you in real time how it works without it being boring, honestly. So if we have a look over here, we've now set up GPT 5.6 Sol with image generation. We've set up the front end functionality, and we have the dashboard here. We can also improve it and test it out side by side inside ChatGPT. So this is the operating system we built, and this is the dashboard that we built. So if we go inside Hermes Agent here, we're just going to say working and make sure Hermes Agent actually replies to us. Boom. And it says, yes, I'm working. What do you need? Now, this is amazing because now we have Hermes Agent. We have GPT 5.6 plugged in, which is like one of the best frontier models in the world. We have ChatGPT Codex, and that's creating some amazing stuff as well. So if we go to Hermes Agent here, we can use it agentically, and we can use it inside our Agent OS. Now we've got it inside ChatGPT Codex, and now we have the mission control as well. If we click on any of these, it takes us straight to the conversation. The UI looks nice, it looks clean, it looks simple, which is great as well. And then over here, we have the live activity, so we can see what's being done. We have the work that moves of recent operations. We have both of the agents that we've built, and we have everything else ready to go. Just unbelievable how easy it was to set this up. Now, of course, we do have the image generator that needs to be tested, and we'll see how that performs as well. And then we've also got the memory system that's being built out as well. So, what other layers do you need to add to this as well? That might be another question you're asking. So, something that's really, really useful is the conversation history. Now, if I open this up and it just starts from blank every time, not very useful. But if I can start a new chat, like you can see here, and we can switch between them, that is great because then you're kind of using Hermes like ChatGPT, so you can go back and forth inside the chat of it, but also you can use it agentically because you've got Hermes agent that can basically have superpowers. It can do computer use, it can edit files locally. And so it's kind of like you've created your own better version of ChatGPT. This is ChatGPT, but it can't edit my local files. Whereas, for example, if we go over to Hermes agent, this can work directly here too. So that's great. Now, one thing that I'd also add here as well is a system where you can essentially save everything that you've created. And I'll come on to that in a second, but let's have a look at this image generator. And you see how we're basically building out our own SaaS tool? Like, think about how amazing that is. We're at the stage now where you can build your own tools. You don't need any technical knowledge. You don't need to be really technical or understand HTML or be a coder to build this stuff out. You can just build your own custom workflows using AI automation in a way that is customized and personalized to you. That is unbelievable. So if we go inside here and we're like, okay, create a image of a cat eating biscuits, and we'll delete this bit here. We'll change that. We'll get rid of that. You see how it's got this aspect ratio as well? So I didn't even ask it to do that, but Codex thought ahead because I asked it to figure it out. And that's why I quite often prefer just giving the AI to figure it out because it has better ideas and it has more time to give attention to this than I do. Like if I've been coding this out for hours, I'm going to get tired. I'm going to get distracted. It's going to be difficult to focus at times. You might get frustrated sometimes as well. Whereas if you give the decisions to a frontier model like GPT 5.6, it can do it all for you and handle everything as you go along. So now we can say, okay, I want to just go with a cinematic image of a cat eating biscuits. We've got the prompt, we've got the aspect ratio, we've got the cinematic. We'll hit generate image, and that may not work, but so far it's actually looking really good, really impressive actually. And so one thing that might happen here is if we click from Image Studio to Hermes Agent, I wonder if it's going to stop. Yeah. So you see how we clicked on that and then it stopped generating. So we needed it to be able to run in the background. That's another great feature. And you'll see the more you test it, the more you'll see ideas to improve it and the more things that will come up that are kind of like bugs like this. And so what we want to do here is just say, okay, inside the custom workflow image generator, and this is exactly why you want to rename the conversation. So if you right click and rename the conversation, you can see exactly what you're working on. It makes it easy to keep track. We can go inside here and say, based on the image studio, if I generate an image, can you just make sure it still runs in the background whilst I'm moving around? And also what we've seen here is that it's actually tested it out and it's found some bugs that we didn't even know about. So it's returned a 500 error, and it's uncovered a real bug there, which is fantastic as well because it's doing the bug checking for me. But overall, it's looking very, very promising. And that's beginning to work. I mean, I bet if we go back to the app here and we're like, okay, create an image of a cat, and then we just hit generate image, that should actually work without us switching between them. But let's see. So we've got the mission control. We have the different agents built in. We have the studio with custom workflows as well. Like this is beginning to look and form something that is actually amazing. And you can see here that we've got the agentic memory vault as well. So this is the system that we've used. And I actually want to add that as a tab. So I'm going to say add the memory system as a tab so that I can easily see the memories that have been added and see what's been done and also visualize it inside like a beautiful knowledge graph. And we can hit enter here. Now, it's beginning to run out of work usage, as you can see, because I've been running on fast mode and we've created so much stuff side by side. I'm going to say figure this out. But the 80/20 of building an agentic operating system is being done, as you can see. And so all of this is working in the background. You do need to be careful with the token usage as well, because you can easily run out of tokens. If you're wondering how to check your token usage, you can go inside the advanced section here and you can switch the effort levels and the speed and everything else. So you can see how many tokens you've used side by side as well. And you can also click on reset usage as well. That's an option. Now, this is beginning to code out each part as well. Nice. Memory system should be added in, and we've hit the limit. We've so there we go. We've hit the usage limit already. We can actually click on reset usage. That'd be quite interesting. I don't know if we can or not. Oh yeah, we can. Oh, so you can do a weekly reset usage limit as well. I didn't know that. That's pretty good. And then we've got our weekly usage limit that resets on the 18th, which is quite a few days ago. But yeah, and also when you're building out with this, if you want to reduce the amount of tokens, because this can become a problem, especially if you're creating so many things in parallel using the agentic operating system, then you've got a few options. So you can switch off fast mode, you can switch off the intelligence, so you can actually dial down the intelligence level. You can also change and click on advanced, and then you can switch between the models. So if it's just something really basic, then you could switch the model to like GPT 5.5, and that would use less tokens. You can change the effort level to light or medium, and you can change the speed to standard. Now, when you're building all of this out, the more you reduce the amount of tokens you use by dialing down the effort, dialing down the speed, dialing down the model, the worse the outputs will be. So it's always that balance with token optimization between creating something that you really like, but also using the plan without running out of credits. Also, something else to take into account here is that there are loads of different ways you can reduce the amount of tokens and minimize them even more. We've actually got 10 different strategies inside our token minimization playbook in the AI profit boarding that can help you save like 95% of your tokens. So if you want to get like almost 2 to 3x out of your system and be able to code for more and use more tokens, then you can use this system here and it will actually reduce the amount of tokens you use. And that's also one of the reasons that we recommend a templated setup, because for example, with the templated setup, as you can see right here, that just installed it, configured it in the background, and that was already done in like 10 to 20 minutes. That is way better than having to build this from scratch yourself. So it's your choice. But for me personally, I would prefer to use like a templated setup just so I can save time because, you know, time is really valuable. So we have talked about how to build your own agent operating system, how to add custom workflows, how to set up the memory inside there, how to test everything works, how to add new features. And you can see, for example, we have the image of the cat eating biscuits now as well. So that custom workflow works really well. One thing that I'd recommend is you audit your time. So you look at where you're spending your time and then how can the agent OS help you. So anything that you have an idea for, you can build it as you've seen. So for example, the image studio, we had that idea and we built it out. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, okay, what should you be focusing on? What custom workflows should you add to your agent OS? Well, I would look at where you spend your time and then work backwards from there. So anything that you need to do every single day on a schedule that is repeatable and doesn't require you to be there, which is basically 100% of the stuff, you should be automating and you should be building custom workflows. So let me show you some examples of what we built here. So inside my agent OS, we have the content pipeline. The reason that we did that is number one, I was wasting loads of time on keyword research and I was using tools that I didn't really like. So for example, I was using Ahrefs for keyword research. It wouldn't really give me new data and it would give me old suggestions that weren't that helpful. With this system, I can type, for example, Agent OS or whatever I'm trying to focus on when it comes to SEO. It will pull in that data and it's custom made to all of my websites and the niche that I'm in. So if we keep scrolling down here, you can see all of the different keywords that we've got. And so this saved me about 30 minutes a week. Then from there, we can click on use topic and we can actually create the content and deploy it to our websites in one single click. That is super useful for me. Now, if you're watching this, you might be like, well, I don't do any SEO. Like, why do I want that? And that's exactly why you want to go back into GPT 5.6 based on what you work on day to day and tell it exactly what you do based on your time audit and ask it to build that in. So if you're spending a lot of time doing research, build that in. If you spend a lot of time doing lead generation, add a lead generation tool inside there. That's how it works. And this just loops round and round. So like, for example, when you start automating all this stuff, I don't think that you're going to find you work less. I think that you're going to find you work more productively and you achieve way more. Like, I mean, for me, we can create way more content. We can reach way more people. We can grow way faster because we have all these systems in place. And so like for me, I don't see it as like a way to free up my time. I see it as a way to save time so that I can use that to focus on other parts of the business and then just keep cycling through. Okay, what do we work on? What do we work on? What do we need to do next and next and next? Also, there's some other really cool stuff that you can build inside here too. So one thing that we actually did is we noticed, okay, we have so many different agencies. We've got Claude, we've got Hermes, we've got Anti-Gravity, we've got Codex. Why don't we add those inside a system that we can orchestrate? And so we actually add a paperclip inside here as well, so that we can have an organization, a team of AI agents working together. They can go off and build stuff 24/7. We can see everything that we've created. That is really, really useful. And also, a lot of people are asking us to build this in. So, for example, in the AI Profit Board community, when people ask stuff, we actually build it for them. Like, for example, there was someone was asking this morning about how to use ChatGPT in the new app. So what we did is we recorded like a 1 hour course for them, showing them exactly how to use ChatGPT. And so what I really like to do is get ideas from the community, figure out the problems they have, and then solve those problems with the agent OS. And I think that's really good for you. Like you can speak to your team, you can speak to your audience, you can look at the problems that you have and solve each one of them one by one by building the right systems in. The same with the group chat here. So we have a group chat, and these are just ideas of workflows that you can build in because we have finished building out the example project. And so this example, we actually created a group chat where you can message a room and then we can say, okay, Claude, Hermes, come up with a new game idea to build. It will read our Obsidian vaults, the memory that we talked about earlier. And then all our agents just chip in and they speak to each other and they bounce ideas off each other. So, like, for example, Gemini is like, oh, that's a clever twist, Claude. Let's do that. And then Codex is like, do you know what? This sounds really good to integrate OpenClaw and Llama. Let's add that to our pipeline, which brings me to the next setup. So we've got Paperclip for agent orchestration. We have the AI agent group chat. We can also see the history of all our group chats here. Always good to add history inside the agent OS. Otherwise, you won't be able to find stuff and you'll lose stuff and you'll create loads of awesome stuff that you can't find later. And then finally, we have the pipeline. So with the pipeline system, you can drop an idea in here and you can go from getting the idea to going into the human approval section and just implementing it. And this was really good because I found like a lot of people, including myself, would have so many amazing ideas, but it was very difficult to implement everything. So with this system, you can take all your ideas automatically from the group chat because the agents add this into the pipeline. And then anything that you like, right, we need to build this today. Okay, great. Let's just build it. It will come up with a plan. It will plan it out. Then we can approve it. Then it will build it. And then we can view what was actually built previously. And we actually have a full gallery where we can see all of our ideas. And so we can go from idea to implementation so quickly, which is really, really cool. So if we're like, okay, we need to build out this website, boom shakalaka, we can open up that website and see it later. And again, I think it's so important to have like a gallery and a workspace and stuff you can see and save for later. Because if you don't, the biggest issue is that you will not be able to find it. It would just get lost in your downloads, and that will go with the other 100 projects you're working on, and then you won't be able to find it again. So that's why having a gallery and a pipeline is so, so useful. Now, what we also have over here is we have, for example, Claude, and anytime like Claude actually brings something useful out, we add that feature in as well as a separate tab. I'd recommend that for you too. So, for example, if you saw the Ultra Code update, this was amazing. You could have a full team of agents working in parallel, working together towards one task. And you don't have to orchestrate it. Claude is the orchestrator and it builds the sub agents for you. So with this system, we just added that as a separate tab. And it's like you create your own custom version of Claude that you can edit, you can change the UI of anytime you want, and you can come back to at any point. Then we have Hermes. So Hermes, again, really, really powerful. One of the things that I noticed is like they bring out there's always new models that we can plug into Hermes. And this is why you want to focus on the system, not the model. So for example, GPT 5.6 comes out, no problem. We're going to build that out. It doesn't change how I work, doesn't make me have to rebuild anything. It's just like we can add the model inside the system. The same, for example, a lot of people are asking about how to have a voice activated AI agent that we can talk to. And so we actually build that into this system, as you can see. So what it can do is it can listen to me, it can talk to me, it can build stuff out for me. And then again, we've got the full gallery here of everything we've created. Then we have Hermes Oracle. For me, I was just finding way too much time was being taken researching the latest news. And so I created this. I also think a great tip for you here, if you're building out your own agent OS, is that you make sure it's super visual and fun to use. So, for example, we just added this little icon here. And I think it's those little touches, it's the little UI touches that make it fun and easy to use and very memorable. So when I see this, I'm like, okay, I know exactly what this does because I associate the image with the workflow here. And if you don't like the UI or something like that, you can always customize it for later too. So we have a image studio here too, but we actually have a video and a voice session as well. You can also see your previous sessions of what's been done across all of your AI agents, which is great. We can see the status, we can see the skills installed into our Hermes agent, the Kanban, the plugins, the doctor, the insights. These are all just really cool ideas. Again, as you make it more complex, more things can break. And also, if you're using APIs in any part of that, just be careful because, number one, you don't want to rinse the tokens if you're using the API because it can get expensive. And number two, sometimes the APIs will break or they'll expire, and you have to be careful of that too. What I also like to do is I like to separate the outputs by the system depending on the model. And what I mean by that, for example, is we have Hermes here. What I recommend for you is that you build out a workspace where you can track all your creations by the model that's created it. So when we were testing out Grok 4.5 earlier this week, we have all of the creations from Grok 4.5 saved inside the workspace. Really useful. We have the MCP section here. We have the actual Hermes dashboard embedded inside the system. Another really good tip as well is that if you see anything open source that you think, wow, that would be great to build in. All right. So, for example, if we have a look through this list, we see what we've got here, like OmniRoute. This is a free. This is a free way, a free API that you can use to build and automate anything with. Now, why is that important for you? Well, let's say, for example, you're using the agent OS and you want to reduce the amount of tokens you use. Well, you could take a project like this. You can grab the GitHub link. You can go back into ChatGPT here, and you could say, okay, based on this, build this into the agent OS system so that I can code for free. And then that's going to take the details from OmniRoute, install it into your agent OS, and all of a sudden you've not just got ChatGPT and Hermes in there, you've now got a system with a free coder. And if you're wondering how does that look like in reality, here's an example. So this is a custom tool we made with OmniRoute where we can code out for free. We have the chat over here, we have the preview over here, we have the workspace over here. All right. Really, really powerful stuff. We have, for example, HY3 coder. And also some of this stuff will expire. So for example, at HY3, it's only available for free until the 21st. And so no problem. As soon as the 21st hits, we can delete this whole section or we can hide it and we can, do something else. The same, for example, with Sakana Fugu. Like Sakana Fugu is an API. Like it's not that nice to use, and it's kind of like you have to find a place to store it and be able to come back to it. So what did we do? We built out our own custom tool with Sakana Fugu, where we can see everything that we've created. We can chat with it. We can ask it to do stuff, and everything is stored inside one system right here. And then anytime something is trending or interesting that I want to play with, for example, like loops, loop engineering was something big that was, everyone was talking about 2 weeks ago. We plugged in the loop engineering system here. And then the other thing I would say here is like when you're building out agent operating systems, it doesn't just have to be for business stuff. So, for example, you could have a system like this where you can generate music. It could be, for example, your goals. If you were really into Muay Thai, you could have something related to that here. It could be like a tracker for training or something like that. Whatever you prefer to do, you can plug it inside this system. So we have a music generator here. If I want to just create some music that I'm interested in, particularly for like ambient music, then I can just plug this inside the system. We can get the files. We can come back to the AI music we've generated later, and it's all ready to go inside there as well. So those are all the systems that we get. Another orchestration system as well, and this is with Hermes, is the Kanban board. Now with the Kanban board, what we have is a system where we can drop in a task, it gets automatically triaged, and then all of our agents, and we've got many different agent profiles, get assigned to that task as well. So yeah, it's unbelievable. It's really changed the way that I work. And the other thing that I would say here is it changes the way your team works as well. So if you have a team, like for me, I have an SEO agency, and with we've got a team who needs to be able to use AI and that sort of thing, we can give this to like our team of editors and they can use a video agent. And if we have a look down here as well, these are all reviews and testimonials from the AI Profit Boardroom. You can see here, for example, like so many people are getting awesome wins and awesome results with the Agent OS. Like Jacob, he set it up in about 10 minutes, and you saw that I set it up today as well. And Jacob was spending like 12 hours a day trying to build out the Agent OS. Then he just did it in 10 minutes by using our template. David was saying like Julian is cooking harder on his Agent OS than anybody I've seen. So it's a great way to customize it. And you can see, for example, like Sheena as well. Sheena actually created her own version of our Agent OS and used it for lead generation. Now, one thing that I get asked all the time by people is like, what if you're, for example, thinking about selling AI agent services or AI automation, what's the one thing the clients want to see? What is in demand right now? And for sure, it's the agent operating system. Like, if you can build out custom workflows that solve all the problems your customer has by creating amazing systems like you've seen today. So, if they need help generating images, you create the image studio. If they need help generating videos, you create the video studio. If they need help generating social media content, you create a social media agent. And how do you do it? You just go back into Codex and you test it out for later. So you can easily build out all this stuff and you just grab their idea, you solve all the problems, and you go from there. Now, as well, one thing that I'll say here is like you might be tempted to have Claude and Codex work on the same thing at the same time. I personally wouldn't recommend that. So if you are building out with an agent and you're trying to work on the agent OS, you're trying to improve it day by day, trying to make it better as a system, the thing that I'd recommend here is that you just use one agent. So for me, for example, I'm using Claude right now, and I use Fable 5 to help me. You might prefer using ChatGPT, you might prefer using Hermes, but stick to one because if you have multiple agents in multiple different apps, number one, that gets really messy when you're building out an agent operating system. And number two, they could like overwrite or delete something that the other agent is building. So if, for example, Claude is building out something that's just broken, ChatGPT might be like, let's remove that from the code. And then all of a sudden you've got two agents kind of interrupting each other's work, and that can get super messy. Wouldn't recommend that. One thing that I haven't tested that would be very interesting in testing though is with Codex, it's very easy to add plugins. Now, what would be very interesting here is if you could add those plugins inside the Agent OS as well. So as an example of that, like we've got email and Gmail plugged into Codex, right, into ChatGPT work. So it can send emails for us, it can manage our emails, it can draft replies for us and everything else. Now, what would be very interesting is to say to Codex, hey, build out this scheduled task into my Agent OS so that we have a email agent inside there. I'm not going to do that right now because I think it's a task that will probably take about 20 or 30 minutes to really perfect. But that would be interesting as well. So to take the plugin section from Codex and start adding that into your Agent OS so that you can automate and build anything as you want right there. Other things that I'd recommend, number two is you might be tempted to put this on a website. For example, like a lot of our websites we use with Netlify. I wouldn't do that just because again, like I think you need to keep it secure and everything else. Also, if you want to reduce the amount of tokens, you can also use stuff like free APIs and you can use local models. So if we go to the local section here, we can use local models from Olama or LM Studio. And this is particularly good for like the tasks that are quite time consuming, but don't need frontier levels of effort. So let's say, for example, we're looking at all of the models on Olama. And we're like, okay, Ornif. Ornif looks awesome, right? Actually is a really good tool. I've tested it out personally. We have a local leaderboard on Goldie Bench with all the local models, and you can see what we've created. You can see how they perform and everything else. And so you might be tempted to build that into your Agent OS as well. And I think it's actually pretty interesting to build out a local coder. And so what we have over here is we have this local section and we have the preview of everything we've created, what the workspace of our previous generations, and we can use local models inside the system too. And that's another way to use it for free because then you got a combination of like OmniRoot, which is a free way to use like 90 models, and it kind of orchestrates across them. You have hy3, which is another free API you can plug into the system, and then you have local models, which are basically free forever once you've installed them. So between those three things, you can really reduce the amount of tokens that you use as well. What else can we do here? The other thing that I like to do is when I'm testing out all of the models with the same agent that builds out the agent OS, with all the creations, I just put them on Goldie Bench so that I can document the process here. It's another good way to generate leads because people are searching for interesting stuff. People want to know what you've built with it. People are interested in your agent OS if you actually share what you're working on and everything else, especially if you're working on like some new unique stuff. And so you can actually give your agent OS access to Netlify as well, and then it can like document the whole process, the whole building of the agent OS and what you've done, kind of like a journal, but it's not you updating it, it's not you writing, it's your agent, which is really cool as well. So that's basically it. That is the whole system: how to build an agent operating system, how to customize it as much as you want, how to add a memory inside there, which agent to use to build it, how to reduce the amount of tokens you want, also how to create a system that actually works rather than just breaks, and also how to use it in a simplified way using our templates. Now, if you want to get my full agent operating system, you can get that inside the profit boarding, inside the agent OS system section right here. So we update this daily. You can get the zip file for it. You can see the last update date here. You can get a full guide on how to use it. And then every time we build something useful, so for example, like we create a ChatGPT 516 1-hour course, you can get that over here as well. And then also, if you want more help and support on building out with the agent OS, you can post inside the community and we reply to you and create a video tutorial for you every single day. So for example, like Matt was asking about OMI and the best ways to use it and what you can use instead. We solve that problem for him, and we reply to everyone and just help each other as much as we can, as in the best way that we can as well. Inside the classroom, you can get access to all of our best trainings. If you're a complete beginner, you can go from beginner to expert inside this section. And inside that calendar, you can jump a weekly coaching course. Now, this is super useful because you can share your screen, you can ask questions, you can get help and support in real time, and you can also meet other community members who are building out this sort of stuff as well. Inside the map as well, you can meet people locally who are building out with AI agents like you, and this is all available inside the AI Profit Boardroom. Link in the comments description, or just go to the aiprofitboardroom.com. One other thing that has been really useful when we're building out all this stuff is that when a model, like for example, doesn't work the same way or you can't use it anymore. So for example, Fable 5 was a great example of that. Because you've got a system that improves every single day, it doesn't really matter about that sort of stuff. You don't need to worry about that. So if GPT 5.6 comes out, that's great. We can add it in. But if, for example, Fable 5 got taken down, which it did a few weeks ago, it doesn't matter, because in like 2 minutes, you can go back into ChatGPT and you can say, hey, remove the integration with Fable 5, add this in, etc. And also, one thing that's really useful is because you've named the conversations, you can come back in like 2 weeks and edit that conversation. So, for example, what I like to do inside Claude, if I'm scrolling down, if I need to improve the setup that we have with Ponytail, which is another AI project, I can go back inside the chat here and I can say, hey, add this, change that. And because everything is named, it's super easy to organize and it's easy to see everything as well. Some other interesting things that we've set up too in the past is like computer use with the agent OS. So I can go inside Hermes, for example, and I can say, hey, Hermes, can you just open up Google for me and that sort of thing? And we can actually do that with Apollo, which is the voice agent. And that actually has access to computers as well. So it can like edit local files. It can edit, it can open stuff inside your browser and everything else as well, which is really, really good. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the whole system. I mean, it's so much fun to build. It's so inspiring to build. It's also great to just build something that feels like your own. It's never been more fun to use, and I think this has only been possible this year. Like, if you went back last year, it was great using AI, but you couldn't build in the same way. The models were just not at this level. Whereas when you're building an agent operating system now, any custom workflow that you have, things that you've never even dreamed of creating before, you can just add inside this. You can plug it in. You're like, right, want to add this, want to delete that, no problem at all. So it's so much fun. So much fun. Some other things that you can do as well is you can get skills and then you can plug them into the system. So, for example, like there's a skill for reducing tokens, which is called Caveman. And with Caveman, it basically reduces the amount of output tokens you plug in. And you could add that inside the system as well. The final thing that I would say, and this is just a little feature, is that you can delete stuff. Give yourself the ability to delete stuff. So you can go into ChatGPT and you just say, okay, make sure that everything that we create inside the agent operating system, we can delete so that I can remove anything that doesn't work. Because like sometimes you might generate something with GLM 5.2, but then it doesn't work very well. And so how do you get around that? Well, you can just make sure that you have the ability to delete that and just add a delete icon for later. So that is basically it. That is a full 1 hour course on how to build agent operating systems, how to automate anything, how to build your own custom workflows. If you want my full setup, you can get that inside the AI Profit Boardroom, and you can get an amazing community that's all using this sort of stuff. You can connect with me personally. You can direct message me anytime you need anything. And thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye bye. Let's see what we got here. Randall, welcome very much. H3, hello, thanks for joining. And Hawk says, I generally want to map the OS I'm making. Yeah. So I mean, you basically know how to do that with all the systems that we saw today. So thanks so much for watching, everyone. I will see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye bye.